y'all, it's Elisa, and in this member exclusive video, I'm going to be working on an art journal page, perhaps two. We'll see how it goes. These are kind of pages I started when I was playing with my gel plate recently, and I just had this art journal out. This is the Dina Wakley black art journal, and I've never had one that's all in black before, and I'm super intrigued to give it a try. So when I was doing my gel plate play session and playing with acrylic paints, I brought some of them into here, and that is what I'm going to use as kind of a starting off point. I think that's a really fun way to art journal in these stages. So having your art journal out, kind of using it as like a use it up journal, like putting extra paint, extra little pieces. And then instead of, oh, this one's very stuck together. Instead of starting with a blank page, you have a little inspiration to start out with. Oh my goodness. This one I apparently closed wet. Let's see what happens. Oh, when I pull it apart, that one might be interesting to kind of work with and save. We'll see how it goes. So I have my art journal. I've got this Dina Wakley Media Collage Collective, which I have really been enjoying. So we're going to see if anything in here kind of jumps out. You know, I'll be pulling out stencils because I love that. I have some collage paper pulled out as well. So lots of kind of different options, and we're just going to see how it goes. So I will put you guys on fast forward and I'll play around and let's see what happens. All right, let's go. All right, as we get started, I am going to flip through this collage collective collection. That's a lot of C words. I am actually a big fan of these. When I first started art journaling, I thought that you had to make all of the images yourself, that you had to be an artist, that you had to paint, that you had to create all of this stuff. And the truth is, there are some amazing artists out there that can freehand these things and sketch out these things. And that is not my particular talent. Would I love to learn to draw a little bit more? Of course I would. And that'll be something that I work on in the future. But for right now, I can appreciate the fact that these other artists created this awesome artwork and that I can use it and I can play with colors and textures and layering, which is something I really enjoy without having to create all of these original pieces. So now I really love leaning on these particular collections, things like this, beautiful papers, beautiful images from magazines. And I think it is a totally legit way to really jumpstart your art journaling if that is something that you're wanting to get into. You can see that what I'm doing to start off is flipping through and looking for images that I'm wanting to include. And I just tear them out. I tore around that girl image. So most of the time, I'm about to break my rule. Most of the time, I just tear pieces. I don't like to use my scissors because I want them to have a more organic feel. And of course, as soon as I say that, here are my scissors. I just wanted this tag and I didn't want it torn, so I will just trim it out with the scissors. And the same thing with the heart image that I have over there to the right. Really, I just wanted the blue heart and none of the purple. So I'm breaking my own rule, but for the majority of the time when I'm using collage pieces, I prefer to tear them. I just think it looks a little bit more organic and I really like it. Now, this paper does not tear. This is supposed to be tissue paper from Dina Wakley, and you guys, I bought this with the best of intentions and I'm still just struggling to use it. So I'm kind of forcing myself to try it here. I thought that the white parts would pop out and that the quote tissue paper parts would completely kind of disappear, kind of like the napkin technique that you can use in Bible journaling and on art journal pages. But it has this waxy coating to it to where it doesn't totally disappear. And so the technique that I have found that works the best with these is to mix in some color on top of the page. It also works pretty well with sprays. I just wasn't really interested in using my sprays today, not interested in getting out all the extra stuff for the sprays, truthfully. So I was wanting to play mostly with art marks and stenciling, which you'll see later. This is kind of just building the foundation for the page. So you can see I'm going to adhere these down with clear gesso. I always am super liberal with the gesso, using a ton of it because I want everything to stay in place, because art journals are kind of notorious for falling apart. And that's what happened a lot in my very first art journal because I just did not use enough gesso. Okay, so here's my solution. I've pulled in some acrylic paint. This is a hot pink acrylic paint that I got at Target. It was actually on clearance. So if you haven't gone to check your Target recently, some of the Handmade Modern, I think they must be coming out with new colors because some of it was on clearance. So picked up this. I thought the hot pink was pretty, and I'm kind of mixing it in. The gesso is still wet, and I'm just going to blend in some colors just so that this is not so stark of an edge where there is that line from the tissue. And I'll mix in some purple here because there's purple in the background, and I'm just layering it over the paint that was already on the page from the gel plate session. And you can see there's still some harsh lines. There's going to be a lot of layering over the top of these, so I'm not super worried. But they just, in the end, this tissue paper did not react how I had hoped it would when I first purchased it, but it is a supply and I do plan on using it just in a different way than originally planned. The last color that I'm bringing in, I think, is called Malted Milk, or maybe just malt. It's a little bit of an off-white, and I'm actually going to use it to add some art marks to break up the diagonal lines that are going on because of how I put that tissue paper down. At this point, this page looks like a hot mess. Like when I first started art journaling, it would have been very easy for me to just walk away and be like, oh man, obviously I'm terrible at this particular exercise. But the truth is, with art journaling, you just have to keep going, keep pushing through, keep adding layers. Sometimes you might feel like you need to walk away from it, and that's fine, but don't give up on a page. That is definitely something that I have learned in the years I've been trying art journaling. All right, so time to add in some of the elements that I had torn out, starting with this girl over there on the right. I put her there because of the way she was looking. I knew I wanted to have her looking towards something that would be over on the left side, and that would be the combination of this heart and this tag. So the whole idea, my whole thought process was that there's going to be a connection between this girl and this kind of collection over here, this tag. And so that's the that's where I'm starting off from this page. As of right now, they're super disconnected. Even though they're on the same page, there's so much distance between them. The diagonal lines are kind of working against me in this case. So I'm going to have to come back and add some more layers to make that work. Okay, off camera, I dried everything and trimmed off the edges. I found a little spot where the tissue paper wasn't sticking down totally, so I'm adding just a little bit more gesso to make sure everything just stays in place as I continue to build on this art journal page. I will dry it again, and then I'll come back and start adding some stenciling. All right, if you are not using pixie spray for your stencils, you are missing out. This pixie spray works so well to adhere stencils down. Usually I don't have a lot of success using acrylic paint through stencils, but in this case, it just seals it up so nicely and you get much crisper images. So now I'm starting to work on the connection between the girl and the tag cluster over on the left. And I'm going to do that with these black circles. I love that this is a black journal. I think it's so intriguing and interesting. So I don't want to lose the amount of black. I'm drying in between to make sure when I relay my stencils. So I wanted to bring in a little bit more black into this page. So that's what I'm doing. Gonna lay my stencil down, and you can see it's kind of like these thought bubbles are coming from her head, and then they're gonna kind of descend down towards where this tag is as we bring the two pieces or the two sides together. So I'm bringing it down there. I'm going to add one more. I have to kind of dry in between because of how the stencil is. I don't want to lay it over the top of another piece that's still wet. I'm going to add it there, and then I'm actually going to keep going and bring it all the way through the page. So you can see there's almost like this big swoop or swoosh, you might say. That's, you know, a super art technical term. There's a big kind of line that you can see coming from her head all the way through those other elements, and that is kind of the connection point between the two sides of the spread. Okay, I have pulled out some Jane Davenport stamps and this Creative Retreat ink, and this is white ink, and these are some wonky stars, and the combination, you guys, I'm kind of obsessed. I have not used this white ink before, and now I can't imagine not using it. I'm so excited to dive into this art journal and use this ink like all over the place. So I'm adding some stars, then I switched up the stars, so this is a smaller one, and again, it's just adding to the connection between the two sides as the stars kind of cascade with what I'm calling these little thought bubbles. I know they don't really look like thought bubbles, but that's what they were to me. And then just adding a few stars across the page just to add some more texture and interest. And then I find a piece that says never stop dreaming. And I love that phrase. So I'm going to actually stamp that in white a few times. So I start right here. The original plan was to stamp it in white and then to stamp it in black kind of over the top of that, but I liked it so much I started stamping in white, and you guys, it was like I can't stop. So I started to fill in some of the black space that was still out there with this never stop dreaming, even if it went off the page, which I think was really cool. And now I'll stamp in black VersaFine Onyx black ink over on the sides so that it kind of pops out over near where my girl is. Okay, next up is dealing with this tag. So the tag over there says, oh well, that's not really the phrase I wanted to go with. So I pulled out a set of alphas from By the Well for God that have this kind of loose open look, and I'm gonna stamp out the word dream onto this blue paper. Now this is the blue paper that I tore the girl out of. So it's bringing in a color that is not super present on the page yet, this kind of bright blue, which I think will kind of draw some attention over there to the left, because as of now, the tag and the heart are kind of getting lost. So what I'm going to do, I cut out all of those letters, kind of fussy cut them out. I will put them through my sticker maker, my Xyron sticker maker to make sure that they are sticky on the back, and then I will adhere them down to cover up the phrase oh well and add in the phrase dream, which of course is more fitting for this art journal page. So I wouldn't want someone to be dreaming and then to say, oh well, giving it up. So adding that in, it's bringing in this kind of burst of blue, which I think is interesting with all of the pinks and purples on the page. So I like that there's a new color kind of coming in. So getting that situated, and now the art mark fun is about to start. I've pulled out my acrylograph markers, and you guys, I've been dreaming of using these acrylographs on art journal pages pretty much non-stop, and I just haven't had a ton of time to be art journaling, so this is fun. I'm starting with a bright blue that I feel coordinates really well with the word dream, and I'm using it to add this kind of sketchy border around the page. Adding borders around pages is like my new thing. I really like it. I think it brings a spread together in kind of a loose manner. So I think it's a lot of fun. And in this particular case, it is bringing that blue kind of around the page. It might be hard to see from here. It does pretty well on the black, which I like. And I'm using it to add a few little art marks throughout the page. So I'm sticking with my go-to plus sign art marks. And it's just bringing those pops of blue around the page a little bit more so it's easier to see and it ties into the dream. As I'm working around the page, I noticed that my hand is getting dirty from the ink not drying yet. So the white ink is taking much longer to dry than I anticipated. And I actually smeared over here in the black, the Never Stop Dreaming. So I'm just gonna go over it with my black acrylograph pen just to make sure it's nice and bold, that you can read it really well and it's not too smeary. And I do think that that helps kind of pop it out a little bit. All right, now I'm going to add a few little arrow marks with this magenta that I really like, just to add a little bit more interest to the border. I like arrow marks because I really think they help direct your attention around the page, even if you're not necessarily thinking of it outright. It really does make a difference. When you are putting arrows on your page, you cannot help but look in the direction of the arrows. In this case, the arrows are kind of going in a circle, so I'm using it to kind of demonstrate the connection between the two halves of the page. And I will wrap up with this acrylograph pen by adding a few dots here and there, just some extra texture, some extra art marks around my page just for fun. I really hope that you enjoyed this bonus video. Thank you so much for all of your support as YouTube members. It really does mean the world to me that you guys chose to join as members, and it really does go so far in helping me be able to continue to create YouTube content. So I hope you enjoy this video, and I'll talk to you soon. As always, keep it creative.